It's time for Recipe of the Day. As you may already know, on my website, thecookful.com, we have a whole bunch of seasoning blend recipes. And the idea behind these is that you can make your own seasoning blends so that you can customize them to your own taste, omit any ingredients you don't want to have in there, and then you have these wonderful seasonings. So today I'm telling you about one of those, and I've chosen it because Labor Day is this coming long weekend, and so it's the perfect time to tell you about this burger seasoning recipe. This makes such flavorful and delicious burgers. And like all of the seasoning blends, I have the recipe there for you for making a half cup, which is going to sit in a standard 4-ounce spice jar. But I'm also giving the amounts for if you just want to make 2 tablespoons, which is the right amount to season 1 pound of ground meat. So you can make a small batch if you just want to make it and use it today, or you can make that larger batch to have in your pantry and pull out when you need it. Now, this is, of course, for burgers, for making great hamburgers, but it's just a great all-purpose beef seasoning. It's even good in ground chicken. The ingredients are things you already have for sure. Garlic powder, onion powder, some brown sugar, salt, paprika, black pepper, and then some optional cayenne for just a little heat. So the full blend, if you're making the 4-ounce spice jar or half cup of this blend, you're going in with 3 tablespoons of garlic powder, 2 tablespoons of onion powder, 2 tablespoons of dark brown sugar. Light will work too. The dark is just a little bit more flavorful. 1 tablespoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of paprika. You can use smoked paprika if you want that little bit of smoky flavor in there, or plain regular paprika. 1 teaspoon of ground black pepper, and then that optional half teaspoon of cayenne. Mix that all up, put it in your jar, and then use 2 tablespoons of it to season 1 pound of meat. And I'm just going to take this moment here to tell you my best tips for seasoning ground meat so that you don't overwork it. When you end up with a tough burger, tough meatballs, tough meatloaf, tough burger patty, it is because the meat's been overworked. If you think about it, picture some ground beef right now. It's kind of in long strands of meat, right? And it's kind of fluffy if you think about it. That fluffiness is what makes it soft when you're eating it. If you smoosh that together so that those strands are now compressed and pushed into each other so they're mushed up a little bit more, you lose that fluffiness and you lose that softness. So your goal whenever making any of these things with ground meat, where you're compressing the ground meat or mixing it with other ingredients, your goal is to try and keep it as fluffy as possible while still having it hold together. In my experience, the thing that people end up doing wrong is they're trying so hard to make sure that everything is evenly mixed into the meat that they overmix it. And so my favorite tip is to mix all of the ingredients that you're planning to add to your meat, mix those together first. So if you're doing this seasoning blend, you would put that all into a large bowl. If you are adding breadcrumbs, if you are adding egg, you do not need to add either of those things. But if you are, you would add those to that bowl as well. Mix those all up, and then add in your ground meat. And then you're only having to mix it until it looks fairly evenly blended. You know that everything else was already evenly mixed. So as soon as it looks kind of blended with the meat, you know that it's evenly distributed. You see what I mean? I have 2 other tips for you though. If you want to, a lot of people will actually just take their ground meat, their ground beef, straight from the package and form the patties right from there. So they are not mixing that meat at all. And then you season the outside of the patties. You just need to season them a little bit more than you normally would because you're not seasoning anything inside. That is not my preferred way. I do like to cut the seasoning all the way through, so I do have one more tip for you. This one I developed when I was doing my Wagyu burger recipe. That Wagyu beef is just so luscious and it's expensive. I really wanted to find a way to season it properly and throughout without mushing it too much. So what you do is you get out a large sheet pan and then you take your meat and you just transfer it onto the sheet pan and just start to, with your fingers, loosely kind of break it up and spread it out. Then mix together your seasoning blend separately, whatever you're planning to season these with. If you're using this technique, you would not be doing any egg or breadcrumbs for sure. It would just be the seasonings. So if you're using my seasoning blend, you would mix that up and then you sprinkle that evenly over the meat on that sheet pan. Then don't mix it at all. Just kind of scoop it and use that to form your patties. So there you're getting some of that seasoning in into every bite without actually mixing and compressing and over mixing and making it tough. You see what I mean? Before I wrap up, I'm just going to give you the amounts for if you only want to make 2 tablespoons of the seasoning blend. So that's to season 1 pound of ground beef. It's 2¼ teaspoons of garlic powder, 1½ teaspoons of onion powder, 1½ teaspoons of brown sugar, 3/4 teaspoon of salt, a ½ teaspoon of paprika, 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper, and optionally 1/8 teaspoon of cayenne. I really think you're going to love this burger seasoning and love those tips about how to season burger patties. They are really life-changing. They work so well. If you do love it, go and leave a 5-star rating and a comment below the recipe down there. Those 5-star ratings especially really help my business. They help more people find my websites because those stars show up in their Google search results, right? And then they're more likely to click on them and come over. And then they know that it's a good recipe because you tried it for them. And then I know that you liked it too. And that makes my day every single time. I love all of your comments. Thank you for the ones that you've already left. It means the world to me. I'm Christine Pittman from cookthestory.com, thecookful.com, the all new chicken cookbook, and from this podcast recipe of the day. I hope you have a wonderful day. Let's get cooking.